sacrum, when you're starting off with our apiaxial sacrum, and both of those are listed as being going 2 inches above your pubic symphysis. So you're literally going to be just below your ACEs on this, okay? So that's all the more you're trying to line up your collimation. I expect to be super duper collimated in. There's no reason why we shouldn't be, okay? It's a small part. Those of you that have shot them already know this. And so all we're gonna do will be left marker all the way on this. The only thing we wouldn't possibly be left marker all the way would be if we were doing an LPO on our SI joints, and then you'd be marking your right side because that's a side of interest, okay? So other than that, everything be left, left, left. Including your lateral and everything because you're rolling them on their left side. So, book-wise says we can shield on males, and while I'll agree on most things on shielding, sometimes that can get in the way on our males, especially if we're throwing the anatomy up. So beware when you're shielding, okay? And make sure that if you're setting your shield, you're setting your shield down low, so you're keeping it out of the anatomy and it's not going to be thrown in your way, because kind of takes away the benefit of the shielding to go ahead and pop that in the way. On both of our APs, on the AP on the sacrum, we'll go ahead and do that at our 90 at 15. When we go to the coccyx, we're going to try to manipulate that a little bit, because otherwise we over penetrate that coccyx. It's a really small part, so we'll try to drop that down for the most part, try to drop it down to like 80, so that we're just not over penetrating that coccyx, because it is a very thin bone, okay? So start off again, you just want to be 2 inches above the pubic symphysis. So here's Brittany's ACEs here, and you can see I'm just below that by about an inch, okay? And that's where I'm centering, alright? Now, sacrum and coccyx. And again, now our centering stays the same, right? But our angle changes. So we go from our 15 degree cephala to our 10 degree caudal. So all that has to change there is that angle, and then obviously you have to go ahead and recenter again to the part. Now some people are going to may well take more angle. It's usually if they're very thin, okay? That would be the people, so less OID. Those would be the people that will need more angle, and that's to take the pubic symphysis, which is on the top, and throw it down below where the coccyx is going to show up on the image, okay? And that's why you would do that. But it's going to be a very thin person, so with not a ton of those out there. Real small. Okay, but again, real small part, so other than the fact that it's a digital receptor, we would not need to even leave our collimated field this big. But with the digital detector, leaving it a square, we're going to be fine. And again, just keep the marker off to the left, off to the side, and you're going to be golden on that, okay? All right, I'm going to go ahead and do an AP.
Monday at 15 for both of these?
You're gonna do, about 80 at 15 on the coccyx. At your aces, you got your 25-degree angle, so just be careful on that because it's kind of a steep angle and it usually can be 25 male, 30 female if you want to keep that in your mind that way. It works out well. Again, the female is a little more angle. So just pair.
This is SI joints?
More angle, the more distortion. Yeah. And remember, SI joints, you saw them already earlier from last week for those of you that were already shooting them in your portfolios. SI joints can narrow because it's going to be just the width of the sacrum. So in your apiaxial, you're going to go ahead and see both. Just feel both of your aces and just have it run from aces to aces. I'm pushing against myself as I'm pulling you. I guess I'm being lazy and leaning on the table or whatever. All right, and that's all the more we're doing there. Just remember, it's going to throw it up really high, so make sure if you're actually doing them out in field, make sure that you're centering low enough that you're not showing the whole base of the lumbar spine, because that's normally what'll happen because you're throwing such a steep angle on it. You want to make sure that you're actually coming in low enough to throw the SI, show the SIs versus that lower lumbar.
And you said roughly 25 on a female?
Hmm?
You said 25 on a female?
25 male, 30 female. Yep, and that's your general rule of thumb. I was going to say, I knew I had a sponge in here. So you do, for SIs, if you're doing them, you're going to do the apiaxial, and then you're going to go ahead and do both your obliques. When we do them for comps, you're going to have one side that I'm going to tell you is going to be your oblique, okay? So when we do the oblique, we are just going to do it one-sided. So if you bend up, bring this hand across. Yeah, don't forget the cell phone thing.
Get it out of your way. Is it okay to lean your leg up like that?
Yeah, so we just find for this, I'm going with upside because right side's my upside, right side's the side I'm going to see my SI joint. So there's no reason to mark it any differently other than right. You can keep the leg bent, not going to get in the way of the SI joint whatsoever. And sometimes you may have to throw up an angle if the very base of it isn't opened up, but just the turning and throwing that side up generally is enough to open it up. So that has to there, and that's it. So that's those. Now we're going to go ahead and all the way up onto your left side, and we'll do a lateral. Like I wasn't making that easy enough on myself, was it? Okay, so here again, here's top of crest. We're feeling for aces. We need to go back from. Am I tickling you?
You're just really cold.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Just really cold. You see how much I'm making her suffer? She's being strong for you guys, okay?
Take one for the team.
Yep.
There you go. All right, so psoriasis? Now it's not that bad, is it? Is it, I was gonna
Much
say,
better.
is it going all the way through your clothing at this point? Okay, so we're trying 3 to 4 inches posterior to ACEs, so locate your ACEs, okay? And you're gonna go 3 to 4 inches back from that. I would say, unless they're very narrow, I generally go 4 inches back for sure. So that's just me. If we're doing 4 sacrum, coccyx together, we'll just do that and go straight back, okay? So that would be our first view. That would be all the more that we would need to do. I was like, which marker do I have in my hand? And again, remember the sacrum angles backwards, okay? So we just want to keep our marker out of the way of the sacrum, all right? So that would be our 3 to 4 inches posterior if we're doing, and if we're doing just sacrum, 80 and 15 will be plenty for that lateral sacrum. If we're doing a lateral coccyx, we want to drop that down a little bit, okay? So we could go down to 70 to 75 at R10 and we would be just fine, okay? Now, if we're doing the coccyx, the only difference is we're going to do our 3 to 4 inches back, but we're going to drop down about 2 inches, okay? And that's the only difference. And comment in on our part. And we know that the coccyx has that anterior angling there, so I just want my marker out of the way anteriorly, which remember I had to go, I went backwards and down, so I still should be sitting out of the way of the coccyx, okay? I did like keeping my marker in front of it. It's way easier to keep it out of the anatomy in front than it is in the back, because we don't know how it's going to be angled specifically. So, okay? And that's all the more gets to this week's comps.
Ooh.
Doesn't seem hard, does it?
Nah. So we switching between 90 and 80 as far as KVP?
Yep.
Alright.
What about for that?
Like 15?
That lateral coccyx, yeah, that's the only one. Yeah, lateral coccyx is the only one. And just think, truly, we won't be, if you're doing a coccyx exam, you can choose to do the sacrum coccyx lateral together to give yourself that coccyx. So,
What's the techniques for the SI joints?
SIs are exactly the same as the other AP, so they should be 90 at 15.
Okay.
Except for our really tiny people. Hold on, girl.
I was waiting.
Thank you. You are being my good patient,
It's an
huh?
AP axial. Is this an AP axial of the SI
Alright.
joints?
Yeah.
Felt like I almost pulled your hair out. I was like, oh, they got hair in my hand.
Pull it. It falls out a lot.